Hi everyone, Dr. Samantha Cottrera here for the Imagining a New We video blog, a video series designed to help history teachers and other history educators teach history in ways that are more meaningful, transformative, and inclusive for their students. I have two cats that are whining around me. We'll see how far I get in this video. Because Mondays are meaningful, I thought I would start Mondays with these little reflective videos, bringing in some kind of big picture theory ideas to see if they resonate with you and if there's point of reflections that you can bring into your own practice, because for many of us we want to engender I don't know if you can hear that. I can. There's like cats that are playing in the hall. Many of us want to engender meaningful learning opportunities for students, but we also know that to engender meaningful learning opportunities for students, we need to feel like we're in a place that really rewards and recognizes meaningful teaching. And that's not always the case. In fact, there's been a lot of studies that talk about how the more rigid a school space is, the less kind of affective relationships there are between teachers and students, and the higher chance of burnout. And so that's something I just want to reflect upon today, because we have Thanksgiving in Canada coming up next week, which, I mean, I am really excited for a long weekend, and you might be too. And, you know, it might give us a chance to have this long weekend that we're leading up to want to, like, we might be feeling that burnout because it's been a stressful fall. We don't know what is going to come for the next half of fall, and we might be feeling that sense of burnout even more. I know I certainly am not exempt from those feelings, and I'm really trying to figure out how to move into October with greater self-care for being outside before it gets too cold, staying away from doom scrolling and anything to do with the American election, and apparently staying away from my cats. Like, I know I'm working with this microphone now, so you might not be able to hear that background noise, but they're not digging it today. So anyway, in today's little meaningful, Mondays are meaningful video, I want to reflect on this notion of schooling space. So I'm going to pull up a quote that I want to read, and it's going to be here, that McGregor in 2003 found that the school is not fixed and static, but a site for dynamic and intersecting networks of practices which articulate in different configurations of power relations. So what they're saying there is that, you know, when we're talking about the school, it's not just a place. It is a set of power relations, but also the places and spaces of schools create those power relations. And this isn't part of the quote necessarily, but those power relations will affect what happens in the classroom, because as Lahelma and Gordon in 1997 found, the more rigid the physical layout of school, the greater emphasis is on how, quote, bodies of students and teachers present themselves and take space, time, and voice. Friedman in 1991 found that in a less organized school, behavior patterns are more flexible, initiatives and spontaneity are more tolerated and common, and so schools that had these characteristics had a lower chance of burnout for teachers, as I was saying. With schools that had clearly defined power structures, there were fewer places for teachers to do the emotional work that teachers needed to support that work. And that was from Angus's work in 2012 too. All of those citations are below. And so I bring this to you today about this like rigid notion of space and place, because our interactions in the spaces of schooling is so different than how it was last September or last February. You might be in your classroom. You might be working from home. You might be working from your classroom, but only seeing a small set of students for like this new schedule that has never been created. And so my reflection for all of you today is to think about how are the structures of schooling the same or different than they were last September, for example, and how has that created more opportunities to get to know your students as just like people, and how has that created less opportunities for you to get to know your students and for your students to get to know you? So has this created more rigid spaces or less rigid spaces. And there is definitely a greater rigidity because of if you're in face-to-face, things like wearing masks and social distancing. But there's also opportunities for less rigidity if you're having a small class or a quadmester in which you're doing kind of intensive work for a big chunk of time. Like, are you able to create more projects and get to know more students? So in this reflection, as we're leading to a long weekend and many of us are feeling burnout, I'm suggesting that you can reflect on space and place this week, and how are the spaces and places of schooling better engendering your work to do meaningful teaching in your classrooms, and how is it getting in the way of that? And then how, as an individual, you're able to work that system, because sometimes you're not, and that's cool, but what can you do to make the space work for you and your students in a way that has less rigidity, that has more space for emotion, that has more space for getting to know each other, that has more space for sharing anxieties and fears of the world that we're living in today? What are the ways that we can kind of move from curricular roles, that we can move from the way that our bodies and presence have to be in a space to kind of new forms of ways of teaching and learning in the spaces and places that we are in with the constraints? I hope that makes sense. I think that so many of us feel so many constraints right now that it is interesting for us to kind of move forward to think about what are the things that we want to change, and is this providing us with some opportunities to be able to identify the things that are working that we want to continue, and the things that we definitely want to ensure don't continue when things get back to normal, in whatever that way that looks like. So anyway, some kind of big thoughts for Mondays Are Meaningful. This coming week, I'm doing a pandemic pedagogy talk with a young adult author named Rob Shapiro. As I've said a lot of times, that I think that a key element of our history teaching pandemic pedagogy right now is to allow space for more conversations, and not just ones that are traditional kind of history ones. And so talking to Rob about this fantasy novel called Book of Sam, not related to me, about like a hero's journey through different elements of hell that is part of a story that he knew but didn't know, and hell is not what we imagine it to be. It actually brought us to have so many cool conversation elements about narrative and structure and history teaching that we both were like, wow, look at what we did there. That was really cool. We also talk about Spice Girls, and I get very excited. So there's that too. I hope you're enjoying the Source Saturday talks that are posted on Saturday. These are opportunities for me to talk with a historian or creator about a primary source or a secondary source to kind of deconstruct it. And the conversations have been really, really amazing. I've imagined them as video conversations, but they're also available as podcasts, and many of you, I think, are listening as podcasts, which is really cool. But also check out the videos, because we screen share and we go through the site, or the source, I mean. This Saturday, because it's a long weekend, there isn't a Source Saturday, but the Saturday after that, I have like 7 interviews with different comic book creators, and I think they're all creators. It's a fascinating series. I have been so excited to talk with so many people. So comic books related to history, using them to teach from, but also using them to teach with, to like get your students to create their own comics. And then the week after that, I have a whole series that you can watch in preparation for the next week, which is Halloween. So if you want to bring some spooky things into your classrooms, you can watch those Source Saturday. The week after that, I have another series with a group of authors that were part of an edited collection on women in World War II. So that's amazing. That's leading up to Remembrance Day. They're just really fantastic talks. I'm so thankful to be able to have them, and for people to have them with me. So please take a look at those if you haven't, although like I said, there isn't a new one this week. And next week there is a pandemic pedagogy video with Chris Ruddy, who is a medical historian. It was a fascinating talk that we had, but we had it in the summer. We had it right before the George Floyd murders, and it didn't really fit kind of the conversations that we were having through June and July. So I didn't post it then, but I can't wait for you to watch it now because he is a fascinating guy. He's a part of Defining Moments Canada, which is Neil Orford's project, and we talked about that in the very first Pandemic Pedagogy video. So it's cool how all these conversations are coming together. I hope you're enjoying them, and I hope you enjoy my book. If you've pre-ordered and you've gotten it, I can't wait to receive them myself. This is still a dummy copy. I'm really, really excited for it. Remember, if you comment below, I will send you a promo code to get a discount on it if you order it from UBC as a little extra perk this week. So anyway, thanks so much. I hope you have a great Monday or whatever day you're watching this. Mondays are meaningful, and my cats have quieted down, so they also are like, oh, I see. They're reflecting on my questions. Anyway, have a great day, everyone, and we will talk to you again.